bum 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 bum. Hello everyone. Welcome to the stream, people. How we doing? Welcome to the live stream, the post-race live stream from the 2022 Spanish Grand Prix at the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya. Welcome everyone. How are you all doing? Hello, Maxim, Yeetus, Phil, Rashan, Lordway, Ben, Weiss, Forbidden Hades, Shalom, Michaela, TJ, Shine, Yeetus, Steve, Lena, Ruben, Catman, Heather, David. Welcome everyone. How are you all? I hope you are all well. It is 2 p.m. UK time. I'm here in my office talking to you, my Canon EOS R with a 35mm prime lens, all about the Spanish Grand Prix. Desk reveal. Maybe one day. It's still a bit messy. Still, things won't, reveals won't be on the in the scope of my thinking until we're back from traveling and wedding and can focus on the house a bit. But yeah, welcome everyone. Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for coming. Thank you to everyone who's here on YouTube. Thank you to everyone who's come from Twitter, the Twitter scum out there. Thank you for coming. Thank you to everyone who's watching this after the fact as well. If you're not live, no problem. Most people watch this after. And welcome to everyone who's listening only as well. So you can't see my face. Never mind. Thank you all for coming. Appreciate it. Right, okay. Spanish Grand Prix. Spanish Grand Prix. Let's not beat around the bush. Let's get straight into a race rating. Out of 10. Obviously, bear in mind, Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya typically doesn't deliver barnstorming F1 races. Typically. Now, I'll be honest here. I actually didn't watch the race live. I was at a gender reveal. That's it. Not a baby shower. Gender reveal. They're different things, aren't they? For one of my best friends, Sam. Big up. So I wasn't watching the race live, but I did catch the highlights and the extended highlights, and I watched all the post-race stuff. Obviously, we watched qualifying on Saturday. So my race rating is hard because I didn't watch the full thing from start to finish, so I missed the boring bits. So I think that kind of skews my rating a bit, but I think I've still got a pretty good idea of how the race kind of played out. You know what I'm saying? A fairly good idea. Thank you, Sard, Sard? I think Sard is correct. Thank you for the 25, Sard. This championship will be decided by who has less DNFs. Look, listen, you can be quick all you like, but if you've got a glass cannon and you can't finish the races, then no good. But yeah, out of 10, I've seen a lot of 8s, a lot of 7s. Look, this is refreshing. Now, why do I think the race was a good race? Because, okay, we'll just get straight into it. So I'm pretty sure I updated this graphic. Yes. I gave it a 7. I thought it was a good race. I thought it had stuff throughout. Now, how much of this was the fact that it was 35 degrees air temperature? How much of this was their new cars? They're still getting used to the tyres. A lot of drivers really struggled on tyres in terms of setup. I think all of that helped make this race better. Also, obviously, Max not having DRS. We got a barnstorming battle between him and George. But I think 7. 7's a good rating. Again, 5 is bang average. I thought this was a better than average race, and I've given it a 7. Again, obviously, I didn't see all I didn't see the full. I saw the highlight, but there were a lot of highlights, so that implied it was a pretty good race. But obviously, because it's Spain, maybe expectations are in one place, and I definitely think it over-delivered on expectations, for sure. Which was nice because look, I've said this many times before on videos, on live streams. I'm a big fan of this track. I like the circuit, just not typically in F1. I enjoy it for touring cars. I enjoy it on Forza back in the day. I like the track, but maybe 7's harsh, but I think 8's a very high rating, and yeah, maybe 7.5. But I thought it was okay. 7's not a bad rating, but again, 5 doesn't mean bad. 5 means average. You've got to remember this. But anyway, yeah, that's what I gave it regarding. But yeah, I think there were factors, but also I do think, yeah, we saw some good overtakes. I think in the junior formulas we saw some really good battling. In like F2, I thought the battling was decent. I caught quite a bit of the F2. Got the sprint race. Didn't watch the feature race live. Big up Logan Sargent. Did a very good job this weekend. My favourite F2 driver. And Felipe Drogovic as well. Domination from Felipe. I remembered I did a tweet. I didn't realise that I tweeted at the end of 2020 singing Felipe's... and I think Felipe's quality. Also, obviously, MP just... This is what I mean, right? So, if your team understood the track, understood the demands, understood how to make the best, then you got a massive advantage, whether you were in F3, F2, or F1. And MP Motorsport in F2 clearly nailed it. Clearly nailed it. So, yeah, it was good. Oh, Talking Points podcast will be out later tonight, by the way. Keep an eye out for that. We didn't do one for Miami, but there's something new on the horizon. Yeah, Jamie's won 5 in a row as well. She smashed it in W Series. That was a good race, actually. I watched the W Series race. It was it's competitive. She didn't have it easy. Pulling and who was it? Abby Pulling was second, and Alice Powell was third. It was a good race. Kept it competitive. But yeah, I think understanding of how to set up the car was huge for this race. And there were certain teams and certain drivers who nailed their setups, and others who didn't. So, but we'll get back to that. And we'll talk about all the nuances. Don't worry, we'll get through. We're here for a long time, not a good time. Okay. Story of my streams: long and boring. Yeah, thank you for coming. Right, okay. So, right, let's look at the race results then. Let's reflect on how it all ended. Max Verstappen, win number 4 of the season, has won all 4 races that he's finished, and that is impressive. That is ominous for the rest of the field. I've said this before. He's looking very good. He had his issues. He went off track, but he still brought home the dub. Sergio Perez P2 drove a very good race. No mistakes. Solid. Ended up conceding position for Max. We'll talk about that later. Fastest lap as well for Sergio. And George Russell, PR 63. Mr. Consistent. Back on the podium. I know he wouldn't have won 2 races he didn't finish on, but I'm still what I said wasn't wrong. But it is looking what it's first race DNF, second race, so he's won 3 in a row now, hasn't he, Max? 3 in a row. But obviously Leclerc probably, if Leclerc doesn't break down, Leclerc's winning this race. I don't know. People confused by PR63. Just gotta look it up. Thank you, Ahmed, for the $5 as well. Appreciate it. Feel terrible for Leclerc. Great to see Max's 24th win at the age of 24. There you go. Here's some treats for Minton. Appreciate it, mate. Thank you. I don't know. I think he's in bed sleeping because he always stays. I need to take him for a good long walk after this stream. Right, yeah. Carlos Sainz P4. Got to say, missed opportunity for him. Lewis Hamilton P5 from the back to P5. Very impressive. Barry Bottas P6. Another solid job from Valtteri bum-ass. And Ocon 7, Norris 8, somehow. Don't know how he managed that. Feeling as groggy as he did. Alonso P9, both Alpines in the points. And then Yuki Tsunoda rounds it out. 1 point for him, P10. Some fantastic drives throughout the field. Again, I think when we're attributing kind of, a lot of drivers just in terms of like tyres falling off and car setup, it was one of those. It was a tough race. Again, it was like 35 degree air temperature. It was 50 degrees. I think they were saying in the cabin. Lando has tonsillitis, and he doesn't usually drink in the car either. I think he said that on the Beyond the Grid podcast, didn't he? He doesn't usually have any drink at all. He doesn't drink during the race. So that must have been doubly difficult. But there you go. That's how it goes. And then Vettel just outside the points. Unlucky. Aston Martin. Ricciardo, Gasly, Schumacher, Stroll, Latifi, Magnussen, Albon, and then Joe and Leclerc. Finish it all up, right. Cheers, Randy. Appreciate it, mate. No. Did you think it was unfair for Perez, like I said on the radio, to let Max pass? Because clearly Max was definitely faster as always. Should he accept his second driver? What I'll say, I'll talk more about that later, but what I will say is that I understand why Red Bull did it. From a maximising top tier sport, no time for making concessions for deserving to have a chance to put up a defence, I guess. I understand Sergio's frustration, of course. I get it from Red Bull's point of view though, and I still think, it would have been nice to have actually seen Max had to fight for that position relative to Sergio. But, because it's so early in the season, isn't it? It's so early in the season to be pulling team orders. But I do get it. And thank you, Mr. Super Chacho. As always, mate, you're far too kind to me. Will Ferrari start looking for someone other than Carlos? No. And who's there? No. No. I don't think we're at that stage yet. I don't think we're at that stage just yet. But it's another missed opportunity for Carlos Sainz. You got to say, given Max's DRS issues and going off track, and given Charles's retirement, this is Carlos Sainz's first ever F1 victory at his home Grand Prix as well. Was very much on the cards, and if it wasn't for a shocking start and going off himself, you got to see that as a missed opportunity, ain't you? But we'll divulge. Anyway, right, on to W's and L's now. W of the weekend, driver-wise, team-wise. L, driver, team. A lot of very, very good performances. Very, very difficult to pick one driver. Obviously, I've got my top pick, and then I've got honourable mentions kind of in order below. I've done mine. Also, yours are on the horizon. We'll look at mine first, then we'll look at yours. I put the poll out earlier this morning on Twitter, on YouTube community. So, for me, my opinions, my winners and losers, are as follows. I gave George Russell my W of the weekend. Outqualified Lewis. Finished ahead. Didn't get punted. We'll talk more about the Lewis Magnussen incident in a minute. Didn't go off. Had a clean race. Lewis was able to come back. For me, though, George just about edges it. Outqualified Lewis. Had a fantastic, held his own with Max. Great battle. And I think George just about takes it over Lewis for me. It's between them two for sure. But just about takes it. Alonso from last to 9th. Fantastic. And then Norris to move up, given the state he was in. I think that's super impressive. Super impressive. You could say race pace for Lewis was stronger, but George was battling with Max Verstappen, so of course he was losing time. So yeah, there's a lot of potential. Bottas potential. Ocon had a really good race. A lot of good races. But yeah, for me, George just about edges it. Just about takes it. W of the weekend, I went Red Bull. Mercedes very much up there. And we'll see in your ratings that they were very close. I think it was super tight. But Red Bull 1-2. Ultimately, that has to take W of the weekend. Because, again, they don't get many. Now that Perez is in, they're actually got a chance of getting some 1-2s. It's been a long time. And, obviously Mercedes up there. Alpine, both in the points, which, again, after qualifying, considering Ocon almost went out in Q1 as well. Got to remember that as well. Like, Ocon was P15 in Q1. To turn that around and get a P7 and P9, fantastic result for Alpine. And then Alfa Romeo, I'll put up there as well. Obviously, I know Joe had his car break, which was a shame. But Bottas, with the upgrades, very competitive. Could have been a P4 for Bottas if they hadn't bothered the strategy. Tenuous putting Alfa Romeo in there because I think, they made a mistake on the strategy. But yeah, and then L of the weekend, there's a lot of potentials, but I've gone Gasly. Which I know surprised a few of you. But Gasly was nowhere relative to Tsunoda this weekend. Slower in pretty much, I think he was slower in most of the practice sessions. Out-qualified in the race. At one stage he was behind Yuki but just fell back. Yuki had seemingly a much better understanding of the car. And I think given the context of last season, and I think it's been, I've been singing Gasly's praises over the last 2 years because he's been fantastic the last 2 years. But this start of this season has been difficult. And also he punted Stroll as well. But surely that's where the damage from. The damage to Gasly. Gasly had damage turn one. He also punted Stroll and got a 5-second penalty. So that also adds to it. But yeah, so it's not been great for Pierre so far. Not been great. That's what I mean. I think, Gasly struggled to get on top of the car, but Tsunoda was able to. So that's an L. Obviously, yeah, I put Sainz and Leclerc. I mean, Sainz and Leclerc, obvious reasons, don't need to explain them. I put Albon in there over Magnussen, over Ricciardo. Now, obviously, Alex did have floor damage. That's why he was munching through tyres. But it's still an L. Why is Leclerc there? Oh, Sniper, you're in for a treat when we get to the when we get to your opinions. And then Team L of the weekend, Ferrari, no brainer. Williams, obviously, Albon had his damage, munching through tyres. Latifi finished 16th ahead of Magnussen. I mean, still not good. Definitely the worst car. Stroll wasn't bad. Stroll had a good race. He got taken out by Pierre. Haas obviously got to be there after all of the promise in qualifying. Haas need to save that qualifying performance for Monaco because then they can just park it. And I'll put AlphaTauri as well because, obviously the fact that Pierre's struggling so much, I think a lot of that is on the team as much as it is on Gasly. Yes, Tsunoda managed to get a point, but considering how good Pierre was last season, how much he's struggling this year, I think, yeah. And Latifi did only beat severely damaged cars, that is true. Mick L, yeah, but they put him on a 2-stop, so I don't really attribute too much to Mick because he was running okay. He wasn't running amazing, but he wasn't running terribly. They put him on a 2-stop. He was a 2-stop, wasn't he? I'm sure Mick was a 2-stop. I'm sure you'll correct me if I'm wrong anyway. That's why I can always rely on you lot to correct me when I'm wrong, which I appreciate that. But I'm pretty sure Mick was 2-stop. Thank you, Alberto, for the 4.99. Appreciate it. Hey, Tommy, do you think Checo will be resigned? Resigned. Yeah, I do actually. Yeah, I think Checo's doing the job that Red Bull want. So I see no reason why they would change. I did think at the start of the season, Pierre Gasly, if he's going to get that opportunity, unfortunately for Pierre, this season more than any needs to be a really strong season, and it's not been a strong start to the season. And if he'd have come out all guns blazing, top 6 every race, I know. Don't get me wrong. I think the AlphaTauri is a worse car this year than it was last year relative to the rest of the field. But I also think that, relative to Tsunoda, it's not been great. Again, don't get me wrong. I think a lot of this is set up and blah, blah, blah. But a driver has a hand in that, and Yuki steps up. And I think if Pierre had carried on the same trajectory as this year, then I'd still be feeling like, okay, he's got a good chance of that Red Bull seat getting back, because he is 5-6 years younger than Sergio, I think, long term. But I don't know. I think Sergio's stepping up, which I'm happy for him. So I think Pierre's got a seat regardless. But I think Sergio's giving Red Bull good reason to have faith long term. The Super Chat Show again, thank you. Do you think Red Bull will have their second driver problem again when Sergio retires? I think Sergio's a way off retiring. You know what I mean? I don't think that's coming anytime soon, personally. He's still 31, 32. He's got years in him, I think. To be honest, it does kind of depend. Obviously, Perez did sound, a bit disheartened, obviously, yesterday. I wonder what those chats were. He was like, oh, we need to talk after the race. I do wonder what those chats were after. I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall. Hopefully, Drive to Survive. Hopefully, Netflix got the old long microphone that they can just hang over the Red Bull motorhome and pick it up, because that would be great content. Thank you, He, for the tenner, mate. Very kind of you. Appreciate that, He. Thank you. Since we're seeing Yuki much closer to Pierre in racing quality pace compared to last year's floor wiping, do you think Yuki might actually outdo Pierre this year, or has he got a way to go yet? I don't know. I think, we're 6 races in, new regulations, drivers are trying to understand the cars, teams are trying to understand the cars, also trying to understand the new tyres. I still think, it will be close between Yuki and Pierre. I would still put my money on Pierre coming out on top, but I'm not surprised that it's seemingly a lot closer this year. Because again, it's a fresh sheet for everyone. In the same way that I think the gap between Sergio and Max has been less. It's still been pretty significant between him and Sergio. But I think it's been less because obviously Max isn't carrying that car knowledge. In the same way that, Gasly was carrying a lot more car knowledge in 2021 than Yuki was. So, you know what I mean? I think that's... they're all factors as well. Thank you, Adnan. GR63. PR63. Thank you, Adnan. And thank you, Ryan. Thoughts on the pace of the Aston performance upgrades? I'll get more into that, Ryan. But let's just say that, all in all, actually, I feel like the way the Aston Martin's weekend went was... I think Aston can look at this weekend and be like, yeah, cool. That's pretty good. I think they could be quite happy with how this weekend turned out, personally. In my opinion. Anyway, right, okay. Thank you to all the super chats. I appreciate that. Now on to your winners and losers. I polled just under 2,000 of you entered the poll, gave your opinion, and here we have. George just about takes your... This is not me now. This is you lot. This is you. It's not me. Just about takes W of the weekend. 35% of the vote. Lewis gets 34% of the vote. So nothing in it. I do round these numbers up. But yeah, George was ahead. Verstappen took 14%, and then Alonso and Bottas both with 4%, both with the exact same number of votes. So Alonso/Bottas. For W of the weekend, Team W of the weekend, I mean, the whole split vote was pretty much split between just Mercedes, Red Bull, and Alpine, hence why there's no third option. Fourth option, should I say. So 51% Mercedes. I think that's fair. Like, there's very little in it between George and Lewis, very little in it between Mercedes and Red Bull for most impressive weekend, I think. The turnaround at Mercedes, like I said, I've always kind of had that degree of... reservation around, are Mercedes going to recover it just because they're Mercedes? But from what we've seen, they have jumped up with this upgrade. I think we've seen other teams jump up. I think we've seen, Bottas prove that Alfa Romeo. Bottas could have been P4. He could have been right near George. I think that Alfa Romeo, got to keep an eye on them, because I think Alfa Romeo looking promising. But yeah, great weekend for Mercedes considering the start of the season. Big turnaround. Again, super interesting to see like 3 completely different car philosophies be competitive at the front of the field. I think, Red Bull with a cut above Mercedes, but Leclerc was looking good. 3% for Alpine as well. I'm glad a few you shouted out Alpine. I appreciate that, because it's a very good weekend for them. Driver of the weekend, 32% went Charles Leclerc. Now, obviously, driver L of the weekend is very much a, when I do it, I try and, look as much as I can at the driver and what the driver did. But of course, to DNF from the lead, looking pretty comfortable, engine packs up. That's an L. If you've ever seen one, that's one. So he got an honourable mention for me, but it's an L. Was it his fault? Of course not. He drove a pretty faultless weekend, apart from that spinning qualifying. We'll never know if Max would have been able to outqualify him with DRS. But L's an L. L's an L. Team L, it's true, but it just depends on how you choose to interpret it. So there you go. Because Carlos it would have been better for Ferrari if Carlos his car had broken down. Was it it was turbo, wasn't it? Because for the onboards there was like a whistle, weren't there? You could hear like a whistle as the car kind of spluttered. Oh, Lucas, mate, you've given me 2 donations, mate. If let me know if you want me to refund one of them, because you've asked the same question slightly differently twice. But thank you, Lucas, for the donation. Let me know if you want me to return it. Know your opinion on Lance in general. Do you believe he's better than Ocon? No, I do not believe Lance is better than Ocon. But I think Lance is better than Latifi. I don't think he's Latifi level. I think he's solid, but I don't think he's better than Ocon. It sounded like turbo. It sounded like another gust of wind. So many gusts of wind, should I say, not gust of winds. But yeah, Science 23, Ricciardo 14%, Magnussen 14%. Again, I think with Daniel, obviously, he was, I think they went soft, medium, I think, on the tyres, which was a bit weird strategy-wise. It's one of them that, I don't know, I feel like just generally across the boards, I'm reluctant to read too much into anyone's performance, because this track was so, like, if you cocked it up on strategy and if you cocked it up on car setup, you were done. You were finished. If you got it right, you were laughing. You were great. And again, some teams and drivers got it right. Some team drivers got it wrong. So, but yeah, obviously Ricciardo was definitely one of the most negatively effective. When you out-qualify your teammate who's got tonsillitis, 50-degree in-car temperature, can barely breathe when he gets out the car, and he out-finishes you by, how many positions was it? What is 12 for Ricciardo? 8 for Norris? Yeah. It's not a good look. That's one thing you can say for sure. Barcelona is the testing track, though. Barcelona is the testing track, but again, we've got new tyres, which, I mean, yes, they did testing running, but I'm not being funny. Like, it wasn't like in the past, Barcelona's always been the testing venue where you're banging in laps. It was exceptionally hot. Again, new tyres. I do think I'm reluctant to read too much into these results. But obviously you can still a bit. So there you go. Thank you, Lars, for the €2. Alpha about to swim in cash from sponsors. I mean, yeah, I guess that's part of the reason why they signed Joey, but he's been doing a good job. He's just been unfortunate to have 2 car breaks in 2 races. And then, yeah, obviously Magnussen, 14%. We'll talk about Hamilton, Magnussen once we've got through this. And then team mail of the weekend, obviously Ferrari. Aston Martin, 21%. I think that's more to do with... that's probably more to do with the whole copycat car philosophy, which we'll talk a bit more about in a minute as well. Haas fair. I mean, as promising as it looked in qualifying, didn't deliver. And then Williams just being the worst team. Worst car, I'm afraid. This is what it is. Super chat. Alfa Romeo's butt-ass livery redesign. Have to put the cheeks on the engine cover, and then the inlet above the driver's head is the hole. Anyway, moving on. This is how the championship stands after 6 of 23 rounds. Yeah, I mean, you know what surprises me most looking at this is that how close Sergio is to that fight, actually. Sergio's only, 30 points, 29 points off of Leclerc. Thank you, Jesus Christ, for joining a friend of Tommo. I appreciate that support of the... Oh, yeah, it's 22 rounds now, isn't it? That's fine. Doesn't matter. Because Russia's not getting replaced, is it? So... I'm cool with that. I don't have a problem. Yeah, Perez still up there, very much like, 85 points to 110 for Verstappen. I mean, that's one Verstappen DNF. Perez gets maybe a race win off of the back of that. It's a 1-2. These things can happen. Happened at Baku last year. Sainz down in P5. That's quite kind of glaring now. You got to say that Perez has done the better wingman job relative to his teammate this season, relative to Carlos, whereas last year it was vice versa. And then, Norris 39, relative to Ricciardo only 11, Bottas 38 points, doing a very good job, Valerie. Very, very good job. Ocon as well. Consistent points. Mr. Points, Esteban. Doing bits. But yeah, it's mad. You're right. 46 points behind Leclerc in Australia. How quickly things turn, because it's still the start. We're only 6 rounds in. There's a lot of this season to go. There's a long time left. Long time to go. Right. And then Magnussen 15. Should have been more, but there you go. There you go. Right. Okay. Let's go into this. And actually, I don't want to talk about Red Bull first. I want to talk about Mercedes first, because then we can talk about the Magnussen Hamilton incident. Okay, I put a tweet out last night that got me very cooked. I'm sitting here, slightly overdone. It's one of those steaks that you probably send back because not pink enough. And I want to ask. So I guess first question is. So I'm going to poll you lot. So I want to get your opinions. Hamilton, is it Magnussen? First of all, I guess racing incident, penalty, Magnussen, and then, which I don't think anyone's going to click this one, but I'll put it anyway. Penalty, Hamilton. Right. First and foremost, let's establish whether this was a racing incident or it was a penalty. So let me know. I've just put a poll in the live chat. So click which option you think is most appropriate. And then once we've done that, then we will decide who was more at fault, or if it was even Stevens. Because the problem I made with my tweet is that I attached a number to my tweet. I didn't just say my opinion. I then put like a ratio of difference, and that's where I kind of slipped up. Because to be fair, yeah, it's probably I don't know how I would attribute a number. Right, okay, so 72% over 1,000 of you have already said. 10% of you said penalty Hamilton. Really? 20% say penalty Magnussen. I actually thought that would be higher. But 72% of you say racing incident. What's the tweet? I'll just go on my Twitter and find my retweet from the F1 clip, and then me getting cooked in the comments. It's fine. It's part of the job, you know. You accept it. Okay, so all right, so that's fair. So most of you think racing incident. So racing incident. Okay, so then who was more at fault then? So I'm gonna say Magnussen, Hamilton, equal. Yeah, we'll do that. More at fault. Who was more at fault? It's a different question. Who was more at fault? Or was it 50-50? Because obviously, as well, if you haven't seen on Twitter doing the rounds, there's onboard from Mick Schumacher, who was behind at the time. So obviously we've seen Hamilton's onboard perspective. F1 tweeted a direct comparison. You had Hamilton's onboard, Kev's onboard, and then Mick Schumacher behind. So you get like a different perspective on it. So yeah, 59% say Magnussen more at fault, 17% Hamilton, 25% say equal. So actually that spread's pretty. Look, I feel like I was harsh getting cooked as much as I did. I think I just that tweet might have stumbled into the feeds of a few people who are heavily on one side. Let's just say that. But you know, to be honest, right, from what we've said here, so the consensus is that racing incident, Magnussen more at fault. I agree. I think the way I interpreted it is obviously Magnussen's entitled to chuck a move up the outside. Lewis is he's ahead at all times. At no stage is Magnussen ahead. But Magnussen does get very alongside. It's front wheels that connect. So it's not like he's very, very alongside. You'd say, 80% of the way alongside at the point of impact. But yeah, obviously, like Lewis is carrying a line. You've got to remember the first lap, cold tyres, heavy cars, understeer. I feel like looking at, especially when you look at Mick's on board, I feel that Lewis catches a bit of understeer. But the problem is as well why it's more Kev at fault, because Kev's not ahead, so he can't. It's not up to him to dictate. But also, I don't think he gives enough. I think he could have given Lewis more room to almost like, because it's first lap, you've got a car on the inside, you're going around a long right-hander, and he was so close to Lewis as well. True. Lewis on mediums as well. Good point. So even less grip. Now, obviously, is it on Magnussen? Yeah, I think it's on Magnussen to understand, you know, as much as you can expect to understand, okay, Lewis is on mediums, maybe give him a bit more space in case he understeers. Because I think, you know, Lewis is carrying that weight. I think he understeers slightly. I think they're both keeping. That's why I think Kev reacts in the way he does, where he's like, oh, he punted me. Now, obviously, he said afterwards, like, in the heat of the moment, he knows that Lewis didn't intend for there to be any contact. And that goes without saying. But I think Kev's holding a line, Lewis is holding a line, and then Lewis understeers. And because Kev leaves no room for error, they connect. Honestly, I just think it's unlucky. I just think it's a really unlucky, and obviously the outcome for both of them is terrible. Because you got to remember as well, like, what was it? Russell and Perez had, if anything, bigger contact. If anything. See, I don't agree that you can see Kevin turning aggressively. That's not how I don't see it like that. That's not how I interpret what I'm seeing. I'm seeing Kev hold a line. I'm seeing Lewis hold a line. But Kev's so close to Lewis that Lewis just catches a little bit of understeer, which, again, he's ahead. And then it's contact, and then the outcome's huge. You know what I mean? They're both, both in the gravel. Well, Kev's in the gravel. Lewis has got a puncher. You got to wonder like how good Lewis's race could have been if he didn't have that run in with Kev. You know, again, I think the Russell Perez contact is a bigger piece of contact. But they both come out fine, and the outcome, you know, it's unfortunate because I think that would have been really interesting to see with Lewis retaining position at that stage of the race where he could have gone, because his pace at the end was fantastic. His pace at the end was really good. So, yeah, I think it's one of them that I think Kevin is more to blame than Lewis, but I think it's a racing incident. I think it's just unfortunate. I think Kev should have given a bit more room. But there you go. That's the way I see it. And I think most of you seem to agree, but we don't all agree, and that's fine. You know what I mean? I'm not here for everyone to be like, oh, Tommo, you're so correct on everything. Oh, my God, I worship you. Please tell me all of my opinions. No. Think for yourself. Don't listen to me. Don't listen to anyone else. Think for yourself. Anyway, right. Cool. So we've talked about that now. On to Mercedes, broadly speaking. Again, big step up for Merc. George, fantastic. Mr. Consistent. New team, new car. Immediately delivering. Unreal. Lewis has been unfortunate. He's been very unlucky with like safety cars, couple of races, losing a few positions. Here he was, again, I think it's very unlucky for the outcome to be what it was for such a fairly innocuous piece of content. Content. And I think that, again, it's going to be exciting to see. I do wonder in Monaco, because obviously Monaco's such slow speed. The Mercedes was quick sector one, wasn't it? The Mercedes was quick sector one. I know in qualifying those were the purple sectors that George was getting. So, but yeah, I think it's incredibly encouraging for Mercedes, the fact that George is, because there was always going to be question marks for George, but I think he's put all those questions to bed now. The fact that he's been, you know, yes, Lewis has been unlucky, but I think he's been slightly outperforming Lewis this year so far. Not been much in it at all. But I think George has had the slight edge, and but it's going to be exciting to see how this plays out, because I want at least 3 teams fighting at the top. That's more important to me than anything else. So, seeing that Russell Verstappen battle was so good, honestly, it was so good. It was so good. I was so happy. I was like, yeah, go on, Joe. Just seeing George fight Verstappen in a, you know, fairly equal car. Obviously, the Red Bull's better, don't get me wrong. But it's, you know, the Mercedes now seems to be up in the conversation. I was gassed, man. Because this is like, there's all this talk, there's been so much talk, I've talked about it, I did a video about it, Leclerc, Verstappen, this rivalry. But now we're seeing, you know, and obviously you've had Hamilton, Verstappen, there's been this kind of battling. We've seen Leclerc, Hamilton battling. But I feel like George is now like, this is the first, I think, of now many times we're going to see them two proper giving it some. Because I thought George did a fantastic job defending. Max did as much as you could expect in terms of attacking, but they always gave each other enough room. It was clean, it was fair, it was on the cusp, but it was fantastic. I was loving it. Thank you, Robert, for the €5. Seems only yesterday that Hamilton told Verstappen after Brazil, Ocon instant to pick his battles. Maybe Lewis has forgotten that lesson himself. So Robert sits on the Hamilton more at fault. Well, look, at the end of the day, like Lewis is ahead, takes the corner, turns in, gets a bit of understeer, and then a car that's trying to overtake on the outside. I don't think you can attribute more fault to Lewis for that. I really don't. Like. But that's my opinion. That's your opinion, Robert. All's fair. It's just sport at the end of the day. Nothing's that deep. None of this actually really matters. But anyway, thank you, MA, as well, for the Aussie dollarinos, mate, and welcome to your new Labour government in Australia, and the guy whose surname I can't pronounce. So many people can't comprehend the stationary point of view from the T-cam. Every car other than Lewis looks like it's turning when the point of view isn't moving. Just trying to understand what you've said here. So many people can't comprehend the stationery. I can't comprehend this comment. But thank you for every other car other than Lewis looks like it's turning in from the point of view. I'm sorry, Emma. I don't really understand. Maybe I've just got Monday brain. I'm sorry, but thank you for the support. Hello, Sword. Good to see you, mate. Welcome. Thank you for coming. Yeah. So Mercedes, yeah, big step forward. George still doing bits. Lewis, insane drive, like to drive through from the back. Obviously, I haven't really seen any replays of Lewis's passes. So I'm sure F1 will put together a supercut of all of Lewis's passes through the field. I do wonder how many were like DRS overtakes down the straight and how many he actually had to kind of proper scrap for. That would be interesting to see. Because again, he got to within 12 seconds of George, but obviously George was battling Verstappen, was battling Perez, likely to probably lose more time, whereas I would assume that most of Lewis's overtakes were DRS overtakes, so he wouldn't have lost too much time. If anything, just gained a bit of slipstream and a bit of toe. I'm just saying, but I'd like to see them. Yeah, good day for Mercedes. Next, who should we talk about next? Let's talk about Aston Martin. Aston Martin McCutcheon. What I keep calling them. Lewis made way more progress than Sainz even with contact. True. I think Sainz did pick up a bit of floor damage when he went off into the gravel, which maybe accounts for some of that. But right, Aston Martin. Okay, I'm gonna do another poll. Are you upset with Aston Martin? I'm just gonna simple question. Okay, are you upset with Aston Martin that they've so I did my video, my very reactive video on the day that it came out. Did well. The video banged. So thank you to everyone who watched the video. Just me talking in my opinion of the Aston Martin saga. Now, obviously, they have come out. Andy Green's spoken, denouncing any idea that they copied and suggesting that they've had this design in the wind tunnel since like October last year. Which I don't think we will ever see that, but you got to assume that the FIA has seen proof that this design has been in the works for a long time. Now, does that, even if they prove it, does that exonerate any idea of IP, intellectual property, exchanging? No, because obviously, like, you know, the Dan Fallows, and it's not just Dan, but obviously Dan's the most high profile person who has moved from Red Bull to Aston Martin, but there have been other people. This is obviously this was all like he joined last month. Like, this was all arranged like a long time ago. Like when that was first announced ages ago, like over a year ago. And then obviously gardening leave, where you're paid to not work, which is pretty nice. Pretty much my job. And you're paid to not work so that you can't like carry over too much. It's in the same way, like, you know, when a driver's leaving a team to go to another team, they kind of hold information back. So I think for me, the most likely, this is what I think, okay? I don't know any more than anyone else, okay? I probably know less than many. But my thought is, right, so when Aston Martin say they were developing two side pod designs that would work on their singular chassis, this is what Andy Green talked about. He said that, you know, they've developed they were going down two different routes that could work with one chassis, and then they would make a decision as to which one would be the better one to go with. And they elected for the initial design that you can see on screen now, the prettier design, if you ask me as well. That's what they elected with at the start. And then once they saw the Red Bull and saw the performance and saw how close their second design was to the Red Bull, they understandably decided, okay, no, we're going to go down that other route. Is it feasible that is it feasible that they developed two different sidepod designs? I think so. I think they pretty much, especially with the floor changes in 2021, because they had a really good 2020, third best car probably. And 2021, obviously, floor changes, got nerfed, as did Mercedes. I feel like Aston Martin, it made sense for them to be one of the teams that, offset resources and focused on 2022 early doors. So I could understand why they maybe find the budget to develop two routes. I get, it's easy to criticise developing two routes in a cost cap, but then if you develop one route and it's a stinker, then there's no chance. You know what I mean? There's no chance. Yes, it drops some like so I can get paid without having to work for it. Thank you. More. I appreciate that. I think that's feasible. What I think, because again, the conversation is around intellectual property. So has an intellectual property in terms of documentation, in terms of CAD files, in terms of technical drawings. I don't personally. I would be very, very surprised if any IP in that regard was exchanged. I would be shocked if that was the case. What I wouldn't be surprised about is, again, you've got these new personnel coming in from, got Dan Fallows coming in, very senior, head of aerodynamics at Red Bull before. So essentially, like Adrian Newey's kind of, protege almost. I think, what's stopping, when they're having meetings, a conversation being like, oh yeah, maybe we should kind of work on, or here's kind of a because people talk, you know what I mean? And I feel like that there's probably been conversations which aren't against, there's nothing illegal in saying like, oh, I think we should work on a side. But why am I censoring the truth, Zach? Oh, Zach Morgan knows the truth apparently. Zach, can you tell us the truth, please, Zach? Zach Morgan in the live chat. Zach knows the truth. Can you tell us the truth, please, Zach? Because apparently Zach's the one who knows. Anyway, what was I saying? I was trying to thought. Yeah. So people talk. I wouldn't be surprised if in terms of just chatting, in terms of conversation, and then obviously seeing the Red Bull break cover at the end of February. Teacher vibes. That'd be a good teacher, wouldn't it? Then they obviously can see that. Like, you get all the pictures, you can see, blah, blah, blah. And then they probably had a very similar sidepod design and then just kind of pushed it down that route. You know what I mean? So that's what... I don't think there's any malice there. You can talk about kind of the morality of the sport, but... when double diffuser, F duct, blown exhaust, when they were developed, they were copied. So, whatever. You know what I mean? It happens. As long as there was no IP transferred, which I don't think there was. As for their performances, again, Q1 was an L, but they've got this whole new side pod design. It's going to change the way the car handles. It's going to change the way the car generates downforce. I'm not surprised they had a struggle quali, but their race was pretty good considering where they started. Seb started P16, P11 in the end. Obviously, I know there were DNS, but he moved up relative. And obviously, I think Lance was having a good race until he got punted by Pierre. So I think all things considered, I think Aston can be pretty happy with this weekend. I know that it wasn't but it was never gonna be like straight away there as fast as Red Bull. Obviously, like, come on, that was just a meme, surely. But yeah, anyway, Aston Martin done. Who next? Alpine. Alpine. Considering how much of an L quali was, but they can't afford to have a bad qualifying in Monaco. That's the kind of thing. Like a track like Catalunya, seemingly they have been able to recover, and get both drivers in the points, and somehow get Alonso from last to ninth, which is pretty incredible. Considering that car, I do think there's a lot of potential that hasn't really been. Look, I think that if Alonso had had less bad luck, I think he's definitely on par points wise with Ocon, if not a bit more. To be honest, but yeah, I think Alpine can be pretty happy with how that weekend turned out after qualifying was such a fat juicy L. But both of them two overtaking Daniel Ricciardo, I bet he was thinking, "Oh, what have I done? I've done it again." It's quite sad that they both started behind Daniel and they both finished ahead of him. I love the A110. I think the Alpine A110 is beautiful. But yeah, look, I think Alpine, got Otmar, big man Otmar. I'm a big fan of him, and yeah, I think they're going about their business, and I think they're getting there. So I've got good vibes about Alpine. I do. Good vibes. Not much more to say. Again, great race from Alonso. Got to be up there in the driver of the weekend candidates for sure, and really solid race from Esteban. He didn't really do too much wrong either, but just Alonso coming from where he did to get into where he finished, very impressive. But yeah, Ocon's been low key quality. I mean, look where Ocon is. Ocon is P9 in the Drivers' Championship. And good little buffer to Magnussen as well. So good man, Esteban. AlphaTauri I've already talked about Pierre kind of struggling and Yuki doing a very good job. Not much more to say. They've been a bit, I thought AlphaTauri were going to be really strong this year, and I was wrong. But there's still time for things to change. So there you go. I didn't really bring much in the way of upgrades, did they? I'm pretty sure they brought barely anything in terms of upgrades. So, I think there's potentially more to come. Depends how much they lean on Red Bull, I suppose, doesn't it? But yeah, not much more to say apart from man like Yuki. Alfa Romeo, again, I think very, very under the radar at the minute. I think Bottas is doing what... he's delivering in qualifying, which I think was never a problem for him. And I think in the races, I think that car's got... Because he's qualifying well, don't get me wrong, right? I've got no reason to I've seen nothing to suggest that Bottas has become this kind of overtaking wheel-to-wheel god, right? But he's qualified so well that he's put himself in a position where he can close out races, score big points, and he's not really putting a foot wrong. Like, I would like to see some opportunities this year where he is battling wheel to wheel and, changing the Bottas can't overtake, Bottas can't battle kind of idea that's in many of our minds. But ultimately, right now, he's doing a fantastic job for Alfa Romeo. He's supporting Joe. He's helping develop that car, and that car's looking very good. So it's been really nice seeing Bottas kind of get this new lease of life, and I'm looking forward to seeing more from him going forward. And I think, I think when the time comes when he is going to be having these scraps, hopefully, that, being in this car, being leader of this team, being a bit more comfortable, I think that I'm excited to see a new Bottas 3.7 or whatever. Bottas made a mistake. He did give up position to George. No, who was it? Lewis and Sainz. I think Sainz got past him, didn't he? And then he let Lewis pass quite easily. But Bottas didn't have any tyres because he only did a 2-stop. So there wasn't really much point in him fighting that. At the time I was like, wow, Bottas literally just let him past. But he had no tyres. So what's the point in him trying to battle when all he'll do is either lose a bit of time or potentially get in some kind of accident? You know what I mean? And then, yeah, obviously Joe, very unlucky with the car breaking down again. I think he was having an okay race before that, but he's getting there. I think he's done enough at the start of this season to, get the benefit of the doubt. I think it's raining outside. I said that really weirdly. I think it's raining outside. Oh, yeah, it's pissing down. There you go. Right. Jojo. Williams. Oh, Alex. Yeah. Floor damage for Alex. Don't know how he did it. I'm assuming it was his own fault because how else would the floor have got damaged? He didn't tangle with anyone. So I reckon maybe it was turn 9. That huge, horrible curb that ripped up Lando's floor in practice. And he's like, the tyres lasted like a lap and then he had no grip and he just couldn't drive slow enough to keep the tyres in. I'm surprised that they didn't try the hards because it's the same C1 compound that he took pretty much the entire race before. So yeah, I think obviously, yeah, there's not a good week for Alex. Still beat Latifi in qualifying, but yeah, it was a nothing race for both of them really. I think that Williams car is very temperamental. I feel like that Williams car on soft tyres is just terrible. And I think they need to be. That's why they're always slow in qualifying. And then they just need to be like doing some kind of medium hard strategy in the race. I don't know. But yeah. Will I say Latifi outperformed? I mean, yeah, sure. If your teammate's got damage, okay. But that's what I mean. It's hard to... Because he was running ahead of Latifi and then he just kind of fell off. But yeah, and ended up like a whole pit stop behind. Was it 4 pit stops at the end, wasn't it, for Alex? So... yeah. There you go. No, I know you're joking, Senna, don't worry. But yeah, it's just Williams just need to pull their finger out, don't they? Really. It's not been good. And go Tiffy. I mean, yeah, and again, it's difficult to rate Nicky's weekend. He was still qualified by Alex, and in the race, as much as Alex has pulled strategies to be in the fight or to get points, in Australia, like his pace was there. We haven't seen Latifi's pace. We haven't seen Latifi's pace in any race this year, as far as I'm aware, be close to any other team. Am I right in saying that? Or are there any examples of when Latifi's actual pace throughout the race has been, whereas we've seen that numerous times from Alex? That's what I'm just saying. And we didn't see that again today. So, but like I said at the start, I don't think we can really take too many things away from this weekend apart from De Vries went a 10th quicker in FP1, which was, look, we don't know FP1 fuel loads, different running things, but De Vries went a 10th faster, and that's not a good look. It's really not. So I think ultimately the writing's on the wall. It's too much of a coincidence that De Vries jumps into that car and they almost pit them against each other. Yeah, not good. Right. Red Bull. Should we talk a bit about Perez Verstappen? Yeah, I know De Vries is 27. That's what I mean. He's not a young driver. He's a very good driver, but he's not a young driver. Perez Verstappen. I'm gonna do another poll. Were Red Bull unfair to use team orders? Question. Yes or no? Were Red Bull unfair to use team orders to get Sergio to let Max past? That is my question. I was also listening to earlier on that you know those channels on YouTube that have the team radios cut up. Mate, it is well rainy, man. I was going to go out and get some food after this, but I'm just going to have to make something out of what we got. Were Red Bull? Do you think Red Bull were unfair to use team orders? Unfair to Sergio? Yes, because I'm biased. Very honest, Ben. Very honest. I appreciate that. Because there's two trails of thought. Obviously, you know, in one, it's early in the season. Perez deserves an opportunity to fight and defend and go for a win. I still think Max would have got past. But, you know, given everything Sergio's done, you know, does Sergio deserve that opportunity? I think you could definitely say yes to that. But at the same time, you know, Red Bull are going for a Drivers' Championship, are going for a world title. Like, Max is the more likely driver to deliver on that. That's not a controversial thing to say. I think even the biggest Sergio Perez fan would agree that Max is the driver more likely to deliver a world title. So obviously this being an opportunity, with Ferrari's struggles, with Leclerc out, with Sainz down the order, it's a 1-2, even if Perez is ahead. So it's not so much a constructors argument, it's more of a driver's title argument. But also it's a, you know, if Perez puts up a big defence, is there risk of a crash and then potentially losing position, not getting a 1-2? It's easier for the team to just be like, right, Checo, move over. Do I think it was unfair? I do. I do think it was unfair. But it's Formula One. It's top tier sport. And top tier sport is often unfair. So I don't, as much as I think it was unfair, I don't begrudge Red Bull doing it. I don't. If I'm looking at the situation purely from a Drivers' Championship, zero emotion, I think it's a reasonable, it's a fair call to make, given the drives that Max has been delivering. So, you know, it's one of them, oh, you're just going to sit on the fence. Yeah, but that's, unfortunately, like most things in life aren't black or white. There's nuance. I can understand both points of view. If I was in charge of Red Bull, would I do it as me as an individual? You know, Tommo Horner, would I make that call? No, because I'm a fan of the sport. I want to see battle, and I still think Max would have got the job done fairly easily. But I think the decision makes sense. So there you go. Thank you, Crashbar, for the 499. I don't think they're unfair after how close last season was, but I do think it was unnecessary and a bit rude towards Checo. That's a good point as well. Obviously, after how close last season was, came down to the wire. Yeah, every point counts. And sure, yeah, we could be looking in 10 races' time at Checo leading the championship, but I don't think that's likely because I think Max is just so good. He's in his prime delivering at the minute. And you know, but I think, yeah, obviously how close last season was, I think every point counts. Although Checo did get fastest lap at the end, so you know he got 19 instead of 18. But yeah, I thought yeah, I know what you mean. Thank you, Panacoke, for the €10. They should have let Perez through earlier when Max could not clear Russell. Also a good point. Heard that that's the radio I was talking about earlier. So I think I got lost in thought to mention that. But true, Max couldn't clear Russell. Checo wanted to have a go and they wouldn't let him. Then you can use team orders. Yeah, so Checo was frustrated, not just once, but kind of twice during the race. Which I get it, but you know, this is what Checo signed up for. But also, he wouldn't be a racing driver if he wasn't pushing for, you know, fair, equal treatment. So I'm glad that Sergio is still pushing to be treated like. I don't think it's one of them where he should just be like, oh yeah, cool, bye. I want to see that fight in him. You know what I mean? And he gave that. So again, props to Checo. But again, I'd love to be a fly on the wall for that conversation. Thank you, Robert. Again, another €10. I'm fine with Red Bull's team orders at the end, but the one where they tell Checo on fresh tyres to stay behind Max, despite his DRS, baffles me. Yeah, I agree. Checo could have been outside and caught Leclerc. Yeah, it's a good point. I think if anything, yeah, I probably have more issue with the first kind of thing than the second. Because I think, again, Max overtaking Checo at the end was probably inevitable. But the first team radio when, Checo had fresher tyres and was just sat behind Max and just kept being told, you'll get your chance, you'll get your chance. I thought that was a bit silly. But there you go. Cool. Red Bull done. Mercedes was talked about. McLaren, obviously, lot of upgrades for McLaren. Daniel Ricciardo didn't work out at all. Another kind of difficult race. Again, I don't think we should read too much into this specific race regarding Daniel, but regardless, it doesn't look good. Lando, not well. Get well soon. Brilliant. Like, considering like you would be happy with, like, take that additional context of him not being well out of it, and you'd think, oh, that's pretty good. Yeah, well done, Lando. Like, got 4 points on the board. Add that on top of it as well. I think that's fantastic. Like, smashed it. I have done Mercedes already. Sorry, not to pokey. And yeah, it doesn't look good for Daniel. It's I think this season overall, the pace wise has been pretty close, but I think there is no question now that Lando Norris is right now, given the last 2 seasons, he's obviously better than Ricciardo right now. And maybe better than Ricciardo. Here's a question. Right. Is Norris better than prime Ricciardo? There's a question. Go on. Is Lando Norris, and I'd say Lando's driving right now as well as we've ever seen him, is Lando Norris better than prime Daniel Ricciardo? This is obviously prime Daniel Ricciardo, who outscored Sebastian Vettel in 2014, who outscored Max Verstappen in 2016 and 17, won 7 Grand Prix, 8 Grand Prix. What else? Yeah, just very, very good in his Red Bull days. See, still 70% of you say no, which again I think Daniel can get back to the levels for sure. I think it's just about comfort. I think again a lot of what I say about Sebastian Vettel, I now also say about Daniel Ricciardo. I think these drivers have shown what they can do, but I think to get them to that maybe takes more than other drivers to give them the opportunity, to give them the car, to give them the platform to thrive, to give them the environment to do well. You know, I think that's fair to say. But yeah. Oh, 69. Way. Thank you, everyone who bumped that down. There you go. 69% of you still think that Lando isn't at Daniel's prime, which is interesting. But yeah, I think Lando's got more. They're still so young. You know what I mean? Still so young. But yeah, I think McLaren can be given Lando wasn't well. Obviously, he would have driven better if he was not feeling like crap. So I think ultimately, McLaren can take positives from that. It's just also a shame that Daniel's been a bit of, and you've got Colton Herter on the McLaren program. Pato Awards talks about him as well. It's the Indy 500 this weekend. I'm going to be in a very special place for the Indy 500, by the way. So keep your eyes out for that. And yeah, he's got to step up. Right, Haas. Strong quali. What could have been? Frustrating. Again, I don't think Mick did too much wrong. Two-stop strategy wasn't the one. We saw that with Bottas, but Mick obviously fell off more because that they were kind of closer. Yeah, it's a shame because I really want to see Haas do well, and they've clearly got potential in their car. I don't think upgrades are coming anytime soon. I think Steiner said they're a way off, but there's promise there for sure. There is definitely promise there. Definitely. But we'll see. And then, K-Mag, again, I think he was more at fault, but it was more unlucky than anything else for both of them. So, wasn't able to deliver on the potential, which, again, you're not going to get these weekends that both has to get into Q3 every week. So, it's a missed opportunity. Ferrari. Look, obviously Red Bull had their DNF woes earlier in the season, so kind of balances things out a bit. But Charles was dominant, no question. I think Charles should have won this race. Charles did win the 2 races that Max DNF'd and was ahead of Max on merit. First race of the season, and you know what I mean. So it has been we're six rounds in. Max has won 4, but I think on performance and pace and take DNFs out, it's 3-3, isn't it? Because Charles should have won here, Max won, and then the 2 DNFs, Charles would have won anyway. So over 6 it is, and the Drake. Anyway, so Drake put 300,000 Canadian dollars, which is about £200,000. Which is probably, I don't know, about 170,000 euros, on Charles Leclerc to win But I'm sure he's got enough money. I'm sure Drake's all right. It was sponsored, though. I mean, probably. But still, content. We're talking about it, so the sponsorship clearly worked. But I still think constructors Red Bull, but again it's 3-3 really in terms of pace after 6 rounds, which is vibes, and then maybe Mercedes will jump up there, give it a few races, maybe. Aston Martin talked about. Okay. I think we've talked about everyone now, no? Williams, Red Bull, Mercedes, McLaren, Haas, Ferrari, Aston, Alpine, Alpha. Sweet. Well, there you go. Those are the results. Those are the championship standings. And that's me done. Thank you all for coming. I appreciate you all taking the time. Why am I talking like this? Taking the time. Thank you to everyone who's live. Again, quick. Like it. It helps the algorithm. Minton, right? Okay, yeah. To all you lot who stayed, there's still 2,500 of you here, right? If you stick around for like a minute, and I'll go grab Minton. All right, give me a sec. Okay, the real ones who stay to the end, you get some Minton content. If you're only audio, then sorry, I'll scratch his belly so that you can hear him. Right, give me a sec. Where is he? Minton. Hello, sleepy boy. Oh, he's so warm. You been asleep? You been asleep in bed? Of course he has. This dog, man, he sleeps so much, honestly. Here he is. The boy wonder. There he is. Welcome to the sausage. Hang on. What I can do here, actually, is I can make this bigger so that you get more Minton. There he is. See? Say hello to your fans. Scratch his belly in the mic. So there you go. Bit of ASMR. Look, what's going on with your mouth? Right. Here we go. Sometimes when I give him treats, they get stuck like in the skin between his like gums. You need to give your teeth a clean, mate. So sometimes he'll just be sitting there like just. Like when a squirrel like stores food in its cheeks. That's Minton sometimes, but yeah. Yeah, he is sleepy. He's been sleeping all day. We're going to take you out for a W. Mwah. After this stream, because you need to get some exercise, and so do I. Also, I haven't eaten anything all day, so get some food. Look at how tired he looks. Look at him. He's basically falling asleep. You like them scratches, don't you? Oh, good boy. See, look at how many people you're making happy. But there's still 2,300 people here here to watch you. You have no idea how loved and famous you are, do you? Well, right, good boy. Okay, put you down. Back to bed, right. Let's get large full screen me back to normal. Beautiful, right. Okay, yep, I am now done. Thank you all for coming. Thank you to everyone who was generous enough with the super chats. I do appreciate it. Minton's 4 in October. And yeah, I will see you for the post-race stream on Thursday for the Monaco Grand Prix. Trying to get a video out for Wednesday might be a bit tight because I've been very busy today. So I still need to do quite a lot of work for that video. So yeah, maybe Wednesday, maybe Thursday, maybe the same day as the stream. We'll see. But yeah, cheers everyone. Stay safe, be well, be happy. Stay hydrated. Water is good for you. Drink. And yeah.